Before the story begins, I would like to encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy scary stories and creepypastas. I write a new story once a week and narrate it, so any support from you guys would be tremendously appreciated. Okay, guys, now on to the story. Cue the clock. We have to leave our front door open at night. When I was a kid, my parents had the strangest ritual. Actually, it wasn't just my parents. Rather, it was my entire neighborhood. At night, we all would leave our front doors wide open. The ceremonial event left me bewildered, not understanding why we would do such a thing, especially since during the day we kept our doors tightly shut. I know what you must be thinking. We probably did it because of the weather. But it didn't matter if it was summer or fall. My father would still creep towards our front door cautiously, and with clear hesitation protruding from his movements, he would slowly unlatch the lock and creak the door open. I would just stand there in the corridor leading to our doorway and stare out into the desolated darkness that encapsulated our street. There were no lights, no sounds, just utter emptiness. To be honest, I was quite scared, and I would contemplate the idea of closing the door, but my father would watch me like a hawk, warning me to never do such a thing. That, in his words, would lead to dire consequences. For being so young, I couldn't fathom such a horrid ending. But in my mind, the imaginary figures that danced around in front of me each night from the darkness terrified me more. And, unfortunately, one day, I found out what would happen when you did close the door. It was a conversation amongst me and my friends. We all talked about what would happen if we were ever to shut the door. We usually would gather around our lockers at the end of the day and let our imagination run wild. Most of us had no clue, but like any 10-year-old, we all pretended as if we had the answers. It's aliens. That's what happens. They come down at night and they probe us, Timmy told me and Kevin. We all had a laugh when he started to probe Stewie, the kid we all picked on, as he happened to be walking by. In reality, we all wanted to know the secret, but we were just too scared to admit that we would never have the guts to find out. I almost closed the door once, only leaving a crack open, enough for me to look through, Kevin murmured softly. Me and Timmy looked at him with disbelief, not really believing him. But for some reason, I felt my stomach sink. In the corner of my eye, I could already see a hideous smirk grow on Timmy's face. I did. I didn't think anyone would notice. Besides, we never see anything when the door is open. Why would it be different if the door was closed? Kevin told us. He then got quiet, restraint simmering on his tongue as if he was too frightened to tell us the rest of the story. Well, what did you see when you peeked through the slither of the door? I eagerly asked as I heard a slight chuckle coming from Timmy. I saw a shadow man approach our door, he apprehensively told us. Tears formed in his eyes as I noticed his lip began to slightly quiver. What do you mean, shadow man? I asked back with bewilderment, completely hanging on to every word Kevin said. It was a tall man, but all I could see was his shadow. I don't know. He was walking towards me, and I quickly swung the door open. And then magically, he disappeared. I stared intensely at Kevin for several seconds as I digested the ghastly tale he just told us. I didn't know what to think. And all I could think about were the nights that I stayed up looking out the door into the void of nothingness. And that's when Kevin burst out into laughter. "You're such a pain in the butt!" I screeched out, upset at both Timmy and Kevin as they ridiculed me for entertaining such a story. I hung my head down in a bit of embarrassment, knowing they both got the better of me. Their laughters fluttered in the air, surrounding me in a feeling of regret. Our little group dispersed after that, all while Timmy gestured probing the air towards me. As the sun set, engulfing my little town in its typical darkness, I did my usual. I sat in the living room waiting for my father to unlatch the lock to our front door. As routine, he promptly walked in at the same time he has always done. The look he would have on his face always left me feeling angst. Dad? What happens if we leave the door closed?" I asked my father with wonderment. I could see a frown grow on his face, feeling perturbed that I would ask such a question, and his intense gaze burned through my very existence. But I didn't surrender. I met his stare with my own, not turning away. "Listen, boy, I told you. You leave this door alone, you hear me?" he told me, and then proceeded towards the door, unlatching the lock to open it. I could feel the burst of brisk midnight air inundate our living room, sending chills up my spine. As my father walked away, I headed towards the door and just stared into the abyss of darkness, feeling tempted to go outside, something I've never heard anyone doing before. Now, as one knows, kids do the most dumbest things, and I was no different. My curiosity was eating away at me, and I just wanted to know if there was something outside. Why was it so dark? Why couldn't I hear anything? And an epiphany sparked in my mind. My father told me to never close the door, but he never said anything about not going outside. I pondered the idea for several minutes, debating on how upset my parents would be. But then I thought to myself, if there were strange shadow monsters outside, I wouldn't be alive long enough to suffer their punishment. I giggled to myself. So I walked over to the kitchen to retrieve our flashlight from one of the cupboards. I gripped its cold metal in my small hand firmly, trying my best to overcome the bit of fear that was creeping its way into the forefront of my mind. "You can do this," I told myself. I then walked back towards the door and stood on the edge of our doorway, shining my light into the sea of darkness. I still couldn't see anything. My palms became sweaty, me practically losing my grip on the flashlight. And as if I was jumping into a pool to let the sudden rush of cold inundate my body, I decided to jump into the darkness. I flung myself through the doorway with my eyes closed, expecting some sort of impact. But there was nothing. I was on the porch, engulfed in the void. All I could see was my front door open behind me. I moved around my torch, hoping to make out anything, but all that revealed itself to me was an infinite realm of emptiness. I couldn't even see my own hand in front of me. The revelation of seeing nothing nefarious in the abyss caused me to yelp out to anyone. Hello? Is anyone out there?" Silence remained, filling my ears with a deafening tone. I shuffled my feet a bit further into the darkness, doing my best not to stumble. I realized that everything was still in its place. The stairs leading down to our front yard were still exactly 5 steps away. Well, my small steps. With this newfound knowledge, I decided to go in a little further. I continued calling out, hoping to hear anything. Perhaps another curious voice exploring the realm of nothing, like me. Soon, I found myself at Timmy's house. He lived across the street from me, and the closer I got to his yard, the darkness subtly dissipated, revealing his front door. But, to my astonishment, his door was closed. No way can this be real. They wouldn't close the door, I whispered to myself. Then, to my dismay, I heard a noise. It was faint, but it was coming from a distance, almost as if something was shuffling through the bushes. Now I could feel my heartbeat accelerate, and a sense of regret embodied me. I turned around to face my home, and started to walk slowly, still being careful not to trip over anything.
Why are you out here?
A grotesque growl howled at me. My natural instincts kicked in, and I began to run. I couldn't see anything, but I knew I had to be moving in the direction towards my house. I felt sluggish, almost as if I was trying to run in a dream. Or perhaps the darkness itself was trying to capture me, trapping me into its web of nothingness. I could feel tears cascade down my small face, and soon, to my delight, I saw my front door cautiously manifest itself. It's still open. It was a mere 20 feet away. And that's when I stumbled over something, crashing to the floor with a heavy thud, dropping my torch. Ow! I yelped out. I could hear the most repulsive breathing getting closer. Ponderous footsteps echoed throughout the once silent neighborhood. I didn't dare turn my head to see what was chasing me. Instead, with all the strength I had, I got up from off the ground. I could feel my ankle contort in the wrong direction, but the adrenaline had took a hold of me, and I limped as fast as I could to my front door. It was my salvation from this horrid nightmare.
Why are you out here?
The monstrosity yelled out at me once more. I cried, praying that that thing wouldn't reach me. I only had 10 more feet to go. I reached out my arm as if touching the doorway would make me safe. And as I flung my body into my house, I felt the most excruciating pain. Something tore into my leg as I landed in my living room. And I quickly turned around. And that's when I saw the most horrifying arm. It was long and slimy. It had 3 fingers, each displaying razor-sharp claws. The arm had to be at least 10 feet long. I don't know what it was attached to. The darkness clouded the entire body. It couldn't cross the threshold of our door. And slowly, that arm retreated back into the abyss of darkness, leaving me on my living room floor completely shattered. The next day, I bandaged up my leg the best I could. Looking down at that horrid gash, I realized the wound seemed to be somehow stretching. I blinked my eyes a few times, thinking my mind was playing tricks on me. I tried to ignore it, and I did my best to hide my limp from my parents. As soon as I arrived at school, I couldn't wait to tell Timmy and Kevin of my adventures. I knew they wouldn't believe me, but I had evidence to show them. I had my gash. As usual, I saw Kevin gathered around our lockers, but Timmy wasn't there. And as I got close enough, I could see the distress protruding from Kevin's face. It was a look of devastation. What's wrong? Where's Timmy? I asked with concern. He didn't. Well, yesterday he told me that he was going to close the door. Kevin paused. Subtle tears slipped down his face as his shaky voice continued. I didn't think he would do it. And when I went outside to meet him, I saw... What? What did you see? I asked with trepidation. They were pulling the bodies out of the house. Well, the pieces that were left. There was so much blood. Kevin whimpered out as he embraced me, crying. I didn't know what to think. I just remained quiet and unmoved. I remember seeing Timmy's door close last night, but I thought it was the darkness just messing with me. Seeing how disturbed Kevin was, I figured I wouldn't tell him about what I saw. As the night came, all my curiosities of the unknown had dissolved, and I remained stoic in my room staring at the hard gash. It was spreading up my leg, and some black goo was oozing out of the wound. I don't know what's happening to me, but for whatever reason, my mind is clouded with thoughts of the door, that darkness, almost as if it's calling out to me. And now, all I know is that I need that door open. Hi guys, I hope you liked the story. Hopefully you like the audio to this, because my microphone went kaput, and that's German for like broken. So yeah, my microphone, I have a Samsung Q9U, and for whatever reason it stopped working. So I went to the store and bought this new microphone and a new, it's XLR and all this, new fancy setup. But now my computer, I'm still running like Windows 7. So I don't know, a lot of like technical issues going on right now. But I needed to get this video out, so let me know what you think. Hopefully my voice is still enchanting enough for you to listen to the story. But either way, if not, hopefully the story was good enough to keep you entertained. Well, I'm going to continue working on this technical issues. And I hope you have a great week, guys. Alrighty, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.